So today we will decode arterial blood gas and make it simplified for our daily clinical practice. We will be discussing about what it is, why we need it, when do we do it, how do we do it, and finally a simple step-by-step method to interpret it confidently. By the end of this video, ABG will feel much more manageable. So first thing, what is ABG? Think of ABG as a window that actually shows what is going on inside the body, describing three main components, which is oxygenation, ventilation, and acid base balance. So, going a little more basic into it, what is oxygenation and what is ventilation? A person will need oxygen for his body and also he will need CO2 being removed, right? So, oxygen is how effectively oxygen will enter the blood, and ventilation, that is nothing but how well CO2 is being removed. And third point is how body is balancing these acids bases. So, why is ABG useful? Imagine in emergencies, you have one rapid, accurate test available to immediately detect any life threatening abnormalities, guiding your rapid actions that can save a life. For example, in respiratory distress, shock, or even electrolyte imbalance, could be immediately managed. Next, coming to when do you do ABG? There are two broad categories. One is diagnosis and its severity, which includes respiratory, circulatory, metabolic, and other causes. And next thing is for monitoring. Now you know when to do. Now you should also know what are the contraindications when you should not do ABG. So first thing is, if there is any poor collateral circulation, as in case of radial artery, we do modified Allen's test. Others like coagulopathies or any history of arterial spasms, severe peripheral vascular diseases, arterial grafts, impaired circulation, AV fistulas, trauma, burns, infection at or near the puncture site. So next, how do we do it? Before we know how do we do it, we have to know where should we do. So we have radial artery, brachial artery, femoral artery, dorsalis pedis, and posterior tibial arteries. So most commonly, we go for radial artery. So, modified Allen's test is to test for the collateral ulnar circulation if you are doing a radial artery puncture. So, you have to occlude radial artery and ulnar artery simultaneously and ask the patient to fist their fingers 2 to 3 times so that there will be complete blanching and the hand should look pale. Then we remove pressure on ulnar artery and keep radial artery occluded. Then we will see a flushing of the hand within 5 to 10 seconds. Then the test is telling that collateral is patent and we can go for ABG. Next, what are the prerequisites that we need for doing an ABG? Consent is a must. And then we have to rule out any coagulation conditions as discussed before. And what is the hemodynamic condition of this patient? What is the general condition of the patient that you must know? Procedure. First, flush the syringe with 1 ml heparin and keep it ready. Next, gently extend the wrist 20 to 30 degrees to bring the radial artery to the superficial plane. Locate the radial artery with middle and index finger of the non-dominant hand over the radial styloid process and we feel the radial pulsations. Now insert the needle at 30 to 45 degrees with bevel of the needle upwards and that should be inserted just distal to the planned puncture site. Now you let the arterial pressure to fill in the syringe. Do not pull the plunger. Then after withdrawal of the needle, immediately apply a pressure for minimum of 5 minutes to avoid the hematoma. Post-procedure, analysis should be done immediately. If not, if in case of anticipated delay, an ice pack could be used. What are the complications that you should know which can be due to an ABG? Is pain, hematoma, spasm, infection, air or thromboembolism. Now coming to how do you interpret an ABG? First, you see the pH. Then, identify the primary disorder. It could be respiratory or it could be metabolic. In case of respiratory disorder, you have to know if it is acute or chronic. In case of metabolic disorder, in case of metabolic acidosis specifically, you need to look for anion gap. Finally, you must know how to look for compensation. In case of respiratory disorders, there will be metabolic compensation, and in case of metabolic disorders, there will be respiratory compensation. This is the normal values in arterial and venous blood gas samples. Now we cannot calculate based on the ranges. So we have standardized working formula is that we consider pH 7.4, PCO2 40, bicarbonate 24 and anion gap of 12. Coming to the first step, pH. So as discussed, as per our working formula, pH cutoff is 7.4. So anything less than 7.4 is acidosis, anything more than 7.4 is alkalosis. Next, coming to identification of the primary disorder. Here we have one small hint that we get from pH and PaCO2. If pH and PaCO2 are in the same direction, then it is metabolic. If both are in opposite direction, then it is a primary respiratory cause. Next thing, if I see a primary respiratory disorder, then I have to know if it is acute or if it is chronic. So how will I know if it is acute or chronic? First, based on the history. If the patient is coming with a history of sudden onset of complaints, then it is most likely acute. They are not able to tell clinically properly. Then how do we know? Because acute condition will not give your body time to compensate, right? So there will be less compensation compared to the chronic cases. So how do you know the compensation? Here is the formula: respiratory acidosis and respiratory alkalosis, right? So we see in acute cases, for every rise in 10 mmHg above 40, there will be rise by 1 millimole above 24 of bicarbonate, right? In case of acute acidosis. In case of acute alkalosis, the same thing, 2 millimoles will be below 24. So it is 1, 2, 4 and 5. So 1 and 2 smaller numbers for acute, and 4 and 5 larger numbers for chronic. And 1 and 4, first one is acidosis, then alkalosis. This is how you calculate compensation in case of primary respiratory disorders. Next, causes of primary respiratory disorders, including respiratory acidosis and alkalosis. Now let us finish alkalosis part first. Just remember one word for alkalosis: hyperventilation. In any case of hyperventilation, there will be respiratory alkalosis. In case of acute respiratory alkalosis, we can think of acute conditions where there is increased respiratory rate, like fever, pain, anxiety. In case of chronic respiratory alkalosis, we have chronic hypoxia, chronic liver failure, which is again nothing but chronic hyperventilation. So there is one word for respiratory alkalosis, that is hyperventilation. Next is respiratory acidosis. It can be acute, it can be chronic. In cases of acute respiratory acidosis, there should be some central cause or any respiratory cause. In central, you have central respiratory center depression, like in cases of trauma, encephalitis or any drug. In respiratory causes, there might be acute airway obstruction. For example, severe asthma. Chronic cases like neuromuscular disorders, chest deformities and COPD. This will cause chronic respiratory acidosis. Next, coming to the metabolic disorders. Metabolic disorders, first we have seen if it is acidosis or alkalosis. Now if I am telling you it is acidosis, then we will see anion gap. Anion gap, by definition, it is the difference between unmeasured anions and cations. So how do we do it? What is the formula? How do we know how much it is? That is nothing but sodium minus chloride plus bicarbonate. This you can write, or sodium minus chloride minus bicarbonate. And corrected anion gap is done when albumin is low in a patient. Then we will do corrected anion gap. Now I am telling you it is normal, means normal anion gap metabolic acidosis, NAGMA. Then what does happen in this situation? There will be decrease in bicarbonate. So there will be compensatory increase in chloride levels. This is hyperchloremic acidosis. When do we see this? In cases of diarrhea, renal tubular acidosis and early renal insufficiencies. Now if I am telling you it is high, means more than 12. 12 is our cutoff, right? Then we have this mnemonic which everyone I think knows already, mud piles. So I am rushing through it. Methanol, uremia, DKA, paracetamol, iron, isoniazid, IEMs, lactic acidosis, ethanol, salicylates. So this is mud piles and it is high anion gap metabolic acidosis ka mnemonic, right? Just a small word on metabolic alkalosis. When do we see that? Is in case of severe dehydration or severe vomitings or excessive use of antacids, which will lead to metabolic alkalosis. Next, coming to compensation. We have already learned about respiratory compensation, right? Respiratory acidosis, respiratory alkalosis, acute and chronic, 1, 2, 4, 5, right? This we already know. 1, 2, 4, 5 we already know. Next, coming to metabolic acidosis and metabolic alkalosis. Just two formulas to remember. For acidosis, it is Winter's formula, 1.5 into bicarbonate plus 8. Metabolic alkalosis, there is one formula. Expected PCO2 should be 0.7 into bicarbonate plus 21. So these two formulas you have to remember, you have to mug up. Coming to end of our session, I would like to conclude with the two small basic problems so that you can consolidate your knowledge so far. You can just pause the video, do the example yourself, interpret the result, just verify if it is right or not. So coming to our first step, that is pH. See the pH. What is the pH of this 7.49? And our cutoff was 7.4. So it is more than it is alkalosis. Next, I will see PCO2. PCO2 is 60, which is more than our cutoff. Our cutoff is 40, right? So it is increased, and this is also increased. So it is in the same direction, which is nothing but metabolic. It is metabolic, primary metabolic alkalosis. So I would like to do my compensation, which I have learned. So according to compensation, metabolic alkalosis, I expected PCO2 for me should be 0.7 into bicarbonate plus 21, which would be around 46. But here in our case we have 60, which is more than 46, means there is something extra wrong with the respiratory component. So plus respiratory, and this is acidosis because it is more than what we have known, what it should be compensating. So respiratory acidosis, primary metabolic alkalosis plus respiratory acidosis. In part 2, we will try and discuss more complicated ABGs and real life scenarios, and we will do a bit more detailing on the compensation and mixed acid base disorder part. If this video is useful, please do share and subscribe for such further videos where we will try to simplify the difficult concepts whatever we face in our daily clinical practice. Thank you.